Hey, live stream starts now. Hello, hello, hello. Did you sail this week? How are you doing? If you celebrate Easter, happy Easter. Is it windy where you are? Let me go through the chat. We've got a lot of people showing up. Dom Dom, Dom Dom, Dom Dom's been there since day one. Thank you, Dom Dom, for showing up. And for those of you who don't know, Dom Dom also does a lot of work putting together the community document that references all the past live streams. So that's an amazing resource. Thank you, Dom Dom. Axel, greetings from Morocco. Greetings to Morocco. I've seen some pictures from Morocco that have looked pretty cool, pretty epic. Looks like good conditions. Did you compete in the competition there? I think they just had a competition that had an amateur division. Did you compete in it? Suna, happy Easter to Denmark. Vacuum in Denmark. Mika, hello. Jorg, no sailing, but hopefully some coming up. Yeah, nice. Steen, good to see you here. Samuel, we've got some posts from you to go over. Planning a trip to France with Dennis. Cool. Where in France? Where in France? Claudia, hey, thanks for joining us. How are you doing? Windy in North Carolina. Cold wind. Are you getting on the water? What are you working on? What are you working on the water? If anything, I mean, you don't have to be working on something, but are you working on any new moves or old moves? Uh, yeah, good to have you here. Hey, John. All right. So, what what have I been up to? I've been on Maui, back from Japan, getting in the groove again here, and it's been very flat, very small waves. Since I've been back on Maui, we have not had much in terms of wind. It's been, sorry, in terms of waves. We've had wind, but it just hasn't been wavy. I had one small wave day with some jumps and little wave rides, which was fun. And then I haven't even gotten in the water the other days. I've just been busy and it's been flat water. And even if it's been windy, it's kind of an offshore wind, so it's not that fun in the no wave conditions. Hopefully that's turning around. I think over the next few days we're going to start to see a little bit more swell, and I'll be able to do some more stuff on the water and maybe get some footage for you all. So Samuel and Dennis, you guys are going to Visant. Cool. Dennis, hello, hello, hello. Cool. Sounds good. All right, I'm going to jump into the Facebook group. You guys know the drill. You're all a bunch of regulars. You can interrupt me anytime with any kind of question about windsurfing or whatever. And yeah, let's just go through it. So I'm going to get the Facebook group loaded up and we can start going through it as we always do. All right. It's coming. Just a second. All right. Here we are. All right. So we have a post from Bart posting this video from Glenn. Glenn is the guy who makes these videos, and it's pretty cool. So this is Glenn's video. If you haven't watched it, it's, I think, worth watching. It's just a raw helmet cam video, and he talks with himself and he shows what it's like out on the water at Kanaha. And so you can go through it. It's 33 minutes long. Oops, we've got an ad. We don't want to watch the ad. So we're going to go back to the group. But I recommend doing it. I don't know if I've got a good setup to do a video like this. I'll see though. You know, I've got my GoPro. I've got the Insta360. I'll see if there's a setup I can do to do a video like this, because I like it too. I think it's cool. I think it's cool. Hey, Jeff. Good to see you. Jeff says he's back on the water since 5 weeks off due to the broken toe, forgotten how to sail. But cherish that feeling. I think that feeling when you take a big break and then you come back, it's a really interesting feeling where things feel awkward and then they quickly start to click into place again. I actually like that feeling. All right, next up, we have a post from Jan Thomas. And Jan Thomas has done a lot of posts about bottom turns and bottom turn position. And so he's got an example from comments. He says, I noticed Alessio some 8 years ago and immediately understood that I could learn important things by watching him closely when he hits the wave outside El Viento. So this is in Pozo in Gran Canaria, if you don't know. And Alessio likes to ride on the upwind part of the bay in front of El Viento, which is the restaurant owned by Coutre. And you have a great view of the whole bay. And it's a different spot to ride than the point on the bunker where we compete most of the time. So Jan goes on, I will probably go on about this until I hang up my boots, but when I bought my first twin fin around 2014, I still thought or felt that I should pull in on my mast arm and push away on my clew arm to go clew first. But thanks to having model sailors like Alessio, it eventually dawned upon me that you need to keep the mast arm straight and rotate the sail in the opposite direction of the turn in order to handle the power and prevent the sail from trying to pull the nose of the board off the wind. For this to work well, you need a wide grip. Yes, I agree with everything that is said in that. Let's watch this video. Nice. Nice turn. This looks like a little aerial or even a taka, possibly. Nice little tail pop. Another one. Some good turns. So we can start going, we can go through this and look at some of the things that Alessio is doing and why they work or don't work. What can be learned from this? So let's look at this first turn. There's a few things that are interesting to look at. One is how much he's pushing the sail away from him. So this is something that I don't know if we've talked about enough on the live stream. It's something that we go over a lot in the master classes, the in-person master classes. But you really want to think about pushing the sail away from you in the bottom turn. So your arms are straight. You're not hugging the sail. The sail is not close to you. You can see how much Alessio is pushing that sail away from him and how much he's leaning forward into this gap here, leaning over the board. He's got that bend at the hips. His legs in the turn are a little straight, but you can see on the entry, he's got bent knees. Get low before you go. Then he sort of straightens out in the turn, but he's still leaning over quite dramatically. And you can see we talk a lot about hips being turned into the turn. This is a good example of that. It can be hard to see because the body is so twisted in this picture, holding onto the sail, but you can see that the knees are not pointing towards the nose of the board. They're really pointing towards the toes, which is what we're talking about. And then comes up for that high five, gets the high five, gets the S in the arm here, and then it just does the work for him. Here's another example again, sticking the butt out, chest down, leaning over. Now the board's not carving very much here. There's very little carve. You can see the board is more or less flat, and he's not using the power of the wave. He's using the wind to do this turn. This is a kind of wave riding that you can do in certain places if the conditions allow, but it's not ideal. This is not ideal. Ideally, you want to be more connected to the power of the wave from the beginning and in the bottom turn, and you want to have the board more on the rail. Now, Pozo, small waves, lots of wind, that can be difficult to do. And so this is a kind of riding that you see often in places like Pozo. But in other spots, even if it's on shore, you want to try to be more connected to the wave and have more carve in the board. Like here, the board is pretty flat, and he's more traveling sort of just clue first switch dance than doing a bottom turn, right? He's not connected to the power of the wave. So that's something that, again, it works here. It's for, it all depends on where you are, but you can see that it's less surfing and it's more freestyle. It's more sort of like a clue first switch dance riding, and the board's not really carving. and then coming up to the wave and then doing a little reposition and doing his aerial. And again, it works. In Pozo, it's an important skill to know how to do because you have lots of wind and sometimes really small waves. Here, again, in this bottom turn, you can see pushing the sail away, leaning into this corner. And then you can see the transition of his hips. So in the beginning of the turn, the hip and the board is traveling sort of straight down the line. And then as he wants to turn more back up the wave, you can see the hips start to turn towards the toes, right? You can see the knees. So if we go back just a few frames to here, all right, we have to go a little bit, do that again. The knees are pointing kind of towards the nose of the board. But if we get here, the knees are pointing towards the toes. And so that illustrates what we're often talking about with the hips turning in order to get on that toe side rail. And then getting the high five, boom. That's where the projection comes from. So here's another one. This is the last one we'll look at. So if I'm being super critical of this, I would say he's losing connection to the wave because he's not starting on a power source and really using the wind. But again, that can just be the conditions you have. And then if you have a lot of wind and small waves, you have to learn how to get around it. And that's one of the beauties of windsurfing is we don't always need the power of the wave, but ideally you want to be connected to both the wave and the wind. Is this making sense? Is this working? Let me know in the chat if this is making sense or not, because we're getting into some really technical details, and I want to know if it's helpful or not helpful. So let me know. Let me know in the chat if this is helpful. So again, starting the bottom turn, you can see he's pushing the sail away from him. He's getting some bend in the torso, some bend in the knees. And then that bend increases a little bit on the entry. But you don't want to be increasing the bend when you're pushing. You want to get low before you go, because if you're bending as you're pushing, then you're decreasing the force that you're putting out. So you want to get bent before you go, and then you're thinking of extending as you're pushing, and that's creating more force on the rail of the board. You can see Alessio is very bent at the hips. He's leaning over into this space that's created by sheeting out the sail. You can see he's really bending over kind of as much as the sail here can allow. The feeling that I like to think about is I'm trying to touch my nose, the nose of my face, to the water. And it looks like he's getting pretty low here. You can see how much the hips are turning into the turn. You've got this front knee is really facing the front toes instead of the nose of the board and leaning into that section. All right. So I want to look at the comments a little bit. So Hans talks about counterbalance. I don't think counterbalance is what's happening here, because counterbalance is a balance, and you don't want balance. You want the board on the rail. You want to be going into the turn. You don't want it to stay balanced and flat. So by pushing the sail out of the turn like this, because that is the feeling, it's accommodating the forces of the wind, right? So in order to turn to the wind at this angle, you need to have the sail very open. And then in order to come back up the wave, it's kind of like you're sailing clue first, going out, going upwind. You need to be pushing the sail back, right? Because to go upwind, you're pushing the sail back. But now you're clue first and going out. And so that's just the dynamic of what needs to happen with the sail in order to do that. And so depending on how onshore or offshore it is, that angle of the sail will have to change. So this is very onshore conditions. Pozo is very onshore, almost as onshore as it can get, and you can still do wave riding. If you're looking at somewhere that's really offshore, like Cabo Verde, the sail position is going to be really different. So it has more to do with the angle to the wind and what has to happen than anything else. And the most important thing for doing a dynamic bottom turn is getting the body over, getting the board on that rail. And if doing that can help you, doing that with the sail can help you get in this position, then great, do it. But if you have the sail in this position and you're not leaning over with your body, it's not going to work. So for some people, maybe it is important, and then it allows you to get your body in this position. But if you're not getting your body in that position, bend at the hips, chest down, butt out, leaning over, then it doesn't work. And if we find some, like I can find, like what's interesting is this position, this body position is the same position whether it's offshore or onshore. Now there are slight differences because you have to kind of twist with the upper body to get the sail in this position when it's so onshore. But if we look at like a down the line riding, I'm trying to think where we'll find something. Let me see. Cabo Verde, Cauli, Seadi. Let's see. Let's watch this footage if this works. So this is very offshore. Let's see if I can make this higher quality. No, I can't, huh? Why is it so? Let's see. Huh, I can't really make this higher quality. Hopefully this is enough. I don't know why the quality is so low. We need a closer shot. So here, all right, different wind direction, but you can see the same body position, but because the wind is different, the sail is in a very different position. The sail is forward, over, and so if we go back and we look at Alessio, I mean, now we're looking at port tack versus starboard tack. But still, what I want to get is that the body is in this sort of bent at the hips, chest down, butt out, knees leaning forward position. It's very similar body position, but the sail is in a very different place, and that depends on the direction of the wind to the wave, right? So Cowley can't be in this position with this wind direction relative to the wave. And similarly, Alessio would struggle being in Cowley's position with this wind direction because then the wind would be coming on the other direction of his sail. So the position of the sail in the bottom turn depends on the direction of the wind to the wave. And you can see, all right, Cowley now starts coming up the wave, but because it's so offshore, he never really has to have the sail too far leaned to leeward and too much clew first. You can see there's a little bit of this transition here, but the sail is never really pushed out to leeward, and it's never super open, super clew first, because he doesn't need to, because it's so offshore. And so again, it really has to do with the wind direction, but the body position, especially the lower body position, stays the same. The upper body position changes a little bit because you have to twist or not twist to accommodate what the sail needs to do. But what the sail needs to do is based on the direction of the wind to the wave. Let's find another bottom turn that we can look at and use for reference. Is this making sense? Let me know in the comments if this is making sense. Okay, so here again, look, the sail is in a very different position than the one that Alessio is in. Like, let's go back. I mean, here the sail's fully over the windward rail in front of the body. Totally opposite sail position, but similar body position. Starts coming up the wave, and the sail never really leans to leeward because he doesn't have to, because it's so offshore. If it's more sideshore, sometimes you're coming out of the bottom turn, then the sail is moving to leeward, and it needs to be there in order to come up vertical because, again, of the direction of the wind. So what's really important when we're talking about the sail position in the bottom turn is being aware that heavily depends on the direction of the wind to the wave. And within that, there is some room for style. So if you look at some different windsurfers, they do much more in one way or the other way. So like, for example, some of the Robbie Nash or Julien Tabulet bottom turns, the sail is very little to leeward. It's I would say too much to the windward side, but they make it work. And then there are other windsurfers who maybe have the sail really leeward, like in this picture, even if the conditions are sideshore, and also somehow kind of make it work. So there is a little bit of room to play around, but ultimately it depends on the direction of the wind to the wave. All right, I'm just going to check out the comments a bit. So Hans is saying that balance doesn't mean flat, it's a dynamic force balance. That's true, but I think that you really want to think about getting that board on the rail and leaning over. I don't think, I mean, again, if the idea of counterbalance helps you do that, good. For me, it wouldn't. So I'm hesitant to talk about counterbalance. Thomas is saying backhand back so you can hold the sail out of the water and leaning almost flat. Yep, that makes sense. Hey, Dana Miller. Had some good days. Spring sailing, nice. Loving the bottom turn discussion. Thomas is saying Cowley leans the rig back before the laydown. Yeah, let's go check that out. And everyone can lay down against land and onshore and then go switch clue first of Alessio. Yeah, this is also true, but it depends on the direction of the wind relative to you in the bottom turn. So when it's onshore, you can lay it down, but only in the beginning. And then you have to then pop out into that clue first as you start going through the turn. And again, that depends on the wind direction relative to the wave and nothing else. Hans is saying that the onshore technique is still relevant as an extreme version of what you need to try to do to go more vertical in sideshore conditions. That can be true. I think my point is that once, if you're getting the body position right, the sail position follows. So this is more my point, is that the body position is what guides the whole thing. And then how the wind is relative to the wave determines how the sail is. But if you're focusing on your body and then just pushing the sail away from you and letting the sail fly itself, then it does it for you. So as long as you're focusing on your body position and pushing the sail away, then you can do the same technique, or what feels like the same technique, in onshore versus offshore versus sideshore conditions, but it manifests differently. It looks differently because then the sail is flying differently because of the direction of the wind. But what you're doing feels the same. So you don't have to feel like you have really different technique across the different winds. Now, there are some subtle differences, there are some subtle things, but the core fundamental technique stays the same. And so if you have that, then you don't have to think so much about onshore, offshore, what it is. It's this body position, getting leaned over, pushing the sail away from you, and then the wind determines where the sail is. So you don't have to think about it. Does that make sense? All right, let's continue. Oh, we were going to check this out. So Thomas was saying that Cowley throws the sail back before going into the bottom turn. which I think he's talking about this moment here. So it's not about throwing the sail to leeward. It's about leaning the sail sort of back here, which can help at the setup. It helps, gives you like a little bit of wind up, like a spring. There are a few reasons that can be helpful. You can see he does it there again too. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. All right, Thomas asks about US Cup versus Europin. Interesting discussion. Most people are on Europins. I'm on a US Cup. All right, we have a post from Mateo. This is a video from a year ago. Watching it at home, I immediately realized that if I moved the hand more close to the clue, I could have gone higher. But I have a question about the position of the body. When in cases like these at high speeds, I feel as though the board wants to run away, and I would like to understand how to counter this force to stay more stable and straight in the aerials. All right, let's watch the video. Setting up. Looks beautiful. Nice. That's a great aerial. Beautiful aerial. This is great. All right, let's watch this again. This is a great example of a perfect aerial. This is really good. Okay, so shallow bottom turn. Nose is pointing, but even a little bit in before hitting the wave. Comes into the curl. Could get a little bit more high five, but still getting that contact with the wave, letting the wave do the work. You can see sheeting out, letting the wave do the push rather than trying to jump, and then leaning back, sheeting in, flying, landing in front of the wave. I mean, this is a perfect aerial. This is a very, very nice aerial. So what we're talking about for improving this is really fine tuning, because I think this is the holy grail for what most people want when they talk about aerials. Flying off the lip, landing in the flats. Beautiful aerial, pro level aerial. All right, let's check out the photos, and I want to go back to the question. So the board runs away, and I would like to understand how to counter this force. So let's go through the photos. I mean, it's a beautiful aerial. I don't know. I like this position. I like that you're tucking in with the back leg. I don't know if there's really anything I would change in this. Mateo, I think I need to understand a little bit. I think I need to understand a little bit more what your question is, because this is perfect. You want to control the board a little bit more. You feel like the board is traveling away from you. It looks like you have really good control over the board. I mean, this photo especially, I can see you've got that back leg tucked up. You're pushing on the front leg. One thing that I would suggest trying, which doesn't necessarily give you that control that you're looking for, but will give you an interesting sensation and feeling and give you a little bit more height and hang time, is throwing your head back a little bit. You don't have to throw it all the way back, arching it, trying to touch your fins, but throw your head back, try and look at the wave a little, and you'll notice that you get more hang time. It's also just a really nice sensation. Mateo was saying, I want to stay more flat with the board. Okay, let's look at the photos again. I guess my first question is why you want to stay more flat with the board. I think it's more stylish to have the board up like this, because then you have more change in the board. If the board is flat the whole time, it's kind of less dramatic. But what you could do, so if you want to, because I think leaning the body back is important. Having this position with the sail is important because that helps give you the float and hang time that you want. So if you want to have the board sort of flat here rather than pointing towards the sky, which I like this aesthetic, but what you can do is you're trying to lift then with both feet to have the board. So the classic Josh Angulo aerial kind of looks like this. Let me see if I can find that. Angulo Cabo Verde. Let's see. Those are my own videos. Let's see. All right, let's watch this video. And I'm pretty sure there's an example of this here. Huh, that's not going. Maybe here. All right, I don't know this video. So the one I wanted to find was an Umi video. All right, let's Gulo Umi. All right, this one is the one I want to find. This is a great video and worth watching if you don't know it. So let's find one of these aerials. All right. So pretty much, so that's kind of an example of one. This is a little bit of a flatter aerial. I like yours, Matteo, where it's not as flat, but you can see that he's really lifting up with both, trying to sort of touch the tail of the board to the clue of the sail. But there are a few in here, I think, that are also less upright. But see, I mean, in this one even, I mean, the board is pointing pretty skyward. But trying to lift up your feet, both feet, to kind of lift the board, so your body is flat. You're thinking of your body sort of like flat, holding your body in a line, horizontal line. So this is a good example. You can see he's leaning back, but trying to lift those feet up, try to keep that body in a line, which this is also a very nice aesthetic. So I'm not sure if this is what you're going for, but that's a pretty nice aesthetic. And you can see that he's really lifting up with both legs. So the front leg's not straight. It's really trying to lift that tail of the board up, but then still leaning back with the upper body. All right, let's get back to our videos. That's a cool video. You should, that Angulo Cabo Verde video is pretty awesome. All right, let's, but I like this. This is a perfect aerial. So absolutely nothing to be sad about in that aerial. Definitely a holy grail. All right. Let's check out this post from Samuel. He started wave riding 4 to 5 years ago. Here's a recent wave ride. You can see a comparison between him and Dennis, who's also with us right now. The wind had dropped. All right, let's watch. All right, so Sam. All right, so the first thing that I see is, Sam, you're really doing the work of the cutback yourself. You want to use the wave to do the work for you. And so here I can see there's a bit of white water. The wave is starting to break. I want you to come up into this white water and try and get that high five. And then you don't have to work as much. and you'll have more speed, more power, more connection to the swell. Does that make sense? So let the wave do the work of the cutback rather than the strength of your body. Same thing again. So here you're anticipating the cutback. So you're starting to go into the cutback before coming up into the wave. Trust the wave, trust the power of the wave. Let the wave do the work for you in the cutback. So then you're just bringing that board, continuing that turn just like you were doing, but then getting the high five on this whitewater and letting it push you around. All right, let's see the next turn. Nice backside, like to see it. Again, backside riding, very underrated. All right, that's more of a high five. That's more of a high five. There, you're starting to let the wave to do more work for you. Again, I can see that you're anticipating hitting the whitewater, and so here, good carving bottom turn. Just at this second, you're anticipating the whitewater and you stop carving. So I want to see you keep carving a little bit longer and not thinking about doing any work for the cutback. The only work you're doing coming out of the bottom turn is repositioning the board so that the bottom of the board perfectly faces the power of the wave to get that high five connection. But this is better than the other ones. All right, here we go. This is a side-by-side comparison with Dennis. So you can see here, Dennis is getting this high five. So then the power of the wave is transferring directly into his kit and doing the turn. Whereas, Sam, you're doing a lot of the work yourself. It's going to feel amazing. Once you start to get it, you're going to be really impressed with how easy it is. It is all about just getting to the right setup, and then you let the wave do the work, and the board and the sail and all of these are designed to pick up the energy of the waves. And so if you just get it in the right place, it'll do the work for you. Oh, that's better. This one is better. So here, this is much more of a high five. So what are you doing differently in this video than in the others? What are you thinking about differently in this video? Because look at this. You're really doing a bottom turn that trusts that the wave is going to push you back, right? You're not anticipating the cutback at all. You're really fully doing the bottom turn, coming up to the lip of the wave and letting it push you around rather than anticipating the cutback and doing the work yourself. So what is the difference in your mindset in this video versus the others? I think that is an interesting thing to explore, because there you're really doing it. It's, I guess, a different tack, right? So maybe you're more comfortable on port tack. What do you think about that? What do you think is the main difference? Is it that the wind different is coming from the different side? It is, right? Or did I see that wrong? Let me go back. Just double check that. No, it's the same. Sorry. It's the same. But can you see the difference in this, and can you feel the difference? That's actually more what I'm interested in than just seeing it. So what does the difference feel like between, for example, this wave and the wave before? Whereas here you're turning under the lip and you're really forcing the turnaround with your body and the sail, compared to the other one where you're really getting in the right place and letting the wave do the work for you and really trusting that bottom turn. And so one thing with the high five is it's not just about cutbacks and off the lips. It's also about bottom turns, because if you're looking for that high five, then you're trusting that the wave is going to push you back, and that can allow you to commit more in your bottom turn. So here, the bottom turn ends prematurely because you're anticipating the cutback. So the bottom turn here is already ending. You're already sort of transferring your weight, anticipating doing the work for the cutback. Whereas if you're trusting that that wave is going to push you back, you can stay longer on that bottom turn. Which you do in this other clip, actually. So in this clip, you can see, All right, we start with the back side, and then we come into the front side, and you're really committed to that bottom turn. Well, I guess it's more this second turn, less so in the first turn. But here you can see that you're really committed to the bottom turn, committed to the bottom turn, committed to the bottom turn, and then you just do a slight roll onto the heels to present the bottom of the board to that lip, and then boom, you get all that transfer of energy. All right, so I hope that's clear. More sideshore on the last video. But I would say that the main thing to focus on is on those high fives, so that you are trusting that the power of the wave is going to push you around, and so then you're not doing the work for the cutback yourself, and that can allow you to then lean more into the bottom turn and not stop the bottom turn prematurely, because you're trusting that the power of the wave, and you're allowing that the power of the wave is going to do the work of the cutback for you. Does that make sense? I think that'll be helpful for you to think about. All right, moving on. So there are some changes. Magic Seaweed, which has been owned by Surfline for years, is now going to be fully integrated into Surfline, and the Magic Seaweed site won't exist anymore. Interesting. Some people care, some people don't. And I think that's it. I think we are caught up. And just like that, we are caught up. If I missed something, let me know. I thought there was another post, but I don't. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Looks windy here. I don't know what the swell is doing. Like I said, Maui has been tiny. I think we're going to get a bump in the waves this week, which I'm very looking forward to. And I can get some footage for you guys. I saw the request to do some helmet POV footage, and maybe I have the setup. I don't know if I have the helmet, my POV camera mount helmet here, but I'll see what I can do. I've got to go through cameras and all that stuff. All right, guys, take care. Have a good one. I hope to see you next week, Sunday. All right, bye-bye.